I think that's us. Yep. Well, just give me a second. I'll just make sure this software. Yeah, that's us live. Right. Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, let me just get this up in the right place here. Hold on. Okay, that's us. Well, tonight our guest is Pat McGINNIS from the National Housing Party for the UK. And we're delighted to have Pat on. I met Pat for the first time down at the signing of the Belmont Accord down in Crewe. And I think, Pat, we'll just start there. And welcome to the Guerrilla TV channel. We're a libertarian channel. We cover all politics. All political entities are welcome here. And we like to do deep dives on political theory, political history, and the politics of the different parties throughout the UK, especially the smaller ones. So maybe, Pat, you want to start with the Belmont Accord, what it is, and why the National Housing Party signed it?
Yeah, so my name's Pat McGINNIS. I'm the treasurer of the National Housing Party United Kingdom. And we, as a party, recently joined the Belmont Accord, and we're fairly newcomers to the organisation. And from what I understand is Dr. Tek Kong started up the Belmont Accord in order to bring a lot of the smaller parties together so we can work together more closely. And I think it's a good idea. And yeah, so like I say, it's just pretty new to us. We haven't been in it that long, but we went to the meeting in Crewe, and that's how I met you, David. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was very successful. And you know, I wouldn't be on this live stream tonight if we hadn't joined. And you know, and I like your enthusiasm, I like your passion, and I think we're more or less on the same page.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for about 8 years now, Pat. So, I was telling you earlier on that I've been involved in politics probably since my 20s. So there has been different macerations for myself, but we are very much a libertarian channel where anybody is welcome on the stream. Maybe you want to tell us a wee bit about what is the Belmont Accord and why it was set up and who's involved in it and why the Housing Party decided to join.
Yeah, like I said, it was Dr. Tek Kong who started it up, and Ken Thompson of the ADF, he was asking me to join a while ago, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want to join because I don't want to be associated with parties who want to break the United Kingdom up, because I'm trying to preserve, you know, I'm fighting to preserve our nation and protect it and make it stronger. And there's one or two parties in there that want to break up the United Kingdom, which I really disagree with. Uh-huh. But they managed to persuade us to join, and we did join. And the idea is that, you know, we help each other. You know, at the moment we need some help with our website, and we did find someone to try and help. That unfortunately they couldn't do what we wanted them to do. So, you know, if they did, that's an example of a benefit from joining it, because you meet other people, and you know it's difficult in this game, especially with reform. You know, they're just flying along, and I don't like reform. I'm not scared to say that. I don't think they're the solution. They're part of the establishment, and that's why all of our smaller parties exist in the Belmont Accord. And so, yeah, I mean, well, initially they kind of said, you know, we won't stand against each other, but we're so small as parties, highly unlikely we're going to be standing in the same ward at this stage. So, but it's more of, you know, and also, I'll be honest with you, deep down, I would like everyone to come together and merge at some point. The ADF, the Populist Party, Freedom Alliance, Crewe First. There's about 5 parties. I think that
seven.
Yeah, but those other two, we're not going to be joining those, and they probably wouldn't want to join with us because of our wider sort of like message sort of thing, you know. So yeah, it's I think it's a very positive thing, and I commend Ken Thompson and Dr. Tek for sort, you know, really persevering with it, and I commend you as well, because you came all the way down from Scotland to film it and everything. And you know, we're all the same. We're not getting anything out of this. It's just for the love of our country, the love of politics, passion, you know. So yeah, I think all round it's a really positive thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it was a very politically historic day, Pat, when it was. Maybe I should explain a wee bit, because it's a very diverse number of political parties. Obviously, the Crew party is very local to Crew. There's the English Democrats, which I think are wanting greater federalism to England. I think, as far as I'm aware, off the top of my hat, the English Democrats would like an English Parliament. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, they want a completely separate England, which
do they?
Yeah, which I completely disagree with. And, we have a policy of an English Parliament in our manifesto. We want St George's Day as a bank holiday, and we want a Parliament for England, because everyone knows that Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland have got a Parliament, independent Parliament, and England hasn't. And so that is in our policy. But English Democrats, they actually want to break up the United Kingdom and get rid of the Union flag, which I completely disagree with. And most of the people, well, all of the people in our party also disagree with it.
Well, can I just say, actually, I understand there's a democratic deficit. What I would do, though, if I was, I mean, it'll be up to the English if what they want to do, but if it was me, I would actually just use Westminster and only allow votes from MPs if it's something that's in relation to England. Only English MPs can vote it, rather than having another tier of government there, because obviously the more tiers of government, the more this is going awry. So my thought would be for English MPs to vote in English matters alone, rather than actually having another tier of actual governance. I don't know what your thoughts or the English Democrats' thoughts on that would be.
Well, that's a really good idea, Dave. I haven't thought of that before. I mean, our policy is basically we want an English Parliament, and we do that for 4 years to see how that is, and then we have a vote all across the United Kingdom whether or not to go back to a centralised Westminster, because I think we're better off centralised Westminster personally. And I've heard from so many Scottish people that the devolution has been a total disaster in Scotland. It's just made things 10 times worse. And but that's a good idea. I haven't heard of that idea before, Dave.
Well, the thing that's made devolution worse, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, but the thing that's made devolution worse is because of the political identity of Scotland, and also in turn the MSPs. We've got some really shockingly bad, probably far left to maybe centre left MPs. And I think they're making it worse. I think it's their policy. And we keep swapping them out amongst left-wing MPs, which is not a change of policy. For example, I think the SNP and Labour have voted for 90% of the policies that have come out of the SNP, because they're both left to far left in their actual their identity. And I think it's where they stand on the political spectrum that's a problem, rather than devolution itself. Let me tell you this. I've actually got dyslexia and ADD, and had I had to try and challenge this down at Westminster, one, I don't think they always listen, and two, that it was easier to do it in Edinburgh, and actually help change the Scottish education system, which people who might be listening to this may not know, that this is different from the English and Scottish law are different. The English and Scottish education systems are different, although it's failing because of left-wing policy just now. But I actually was able to help change and have dyslexia more mainstream in Scottish education because of devolution. So it's not always a good thing to have decision making centralised. And obviously, as I discussed with you earlier, I'm a libertarian, so I believe in the empowerment of the individual, not the state. And that's possibly something that might be a wee bit different from other positions, Pat.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult one because the way I see it is, we're on an island called Great Britain. It's not exactly a big island. And, we used to be called England years ago. I mean, obviously, I consider myself English first, British second. But at the end of the day, we're called Britain now. And all this devolution, what Tony Blair brought in my opinion, was a deliberate thing to put a spanner in the works to make everything more complicated so they can rule over us more.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, I would like a Christian British nationalist government, so I was in the BNP. I joined in 2012 till 2021. So I am a nationalist, but on the other hand, I do consider myself a little bit libertarian as well. Some things I'm nationalist, like our policies for water, electricity, and gas should be nationalised. The rail network should be nationalised. But other things like independent businesses and that we've got to help the independent businesses against the big corporations like Sainsbury's, Tesco's, and things like that. So I think there's a balance in life. There's a balance for everything, to find the best way. So I mean, I am a nationalist generally, though. So yeah.
So I would say I was probably an individualist, but I'm also have patriotic feelings as well, whether it be to the Scotland or to the United Kingdom. There's definitely a patriotism there. I've not met anybody from the BNP or former BNP, probably with the exception of Tommy Robinson, but I've never really had a long form conversation with Tommy. Can you just give us a wee bit political history on the BNP and there's a lot of comments that have been made about the BNP and what they were and where they stood with the fascists, with the Nazis. I'm sure you know all this as well. From the inside, what would you describe the British National Party as a collective? Where would you say that they were on the actual political spectrum? What would you have said their ideology was underneath?
Well, when I joined in 2012, I wasn't necessarily practicing Christian. I re-embraced my Christian faith in 2016. So in 2012, the BNP were a British nationalist party. And
were they a national socialist party or were they a fascist party? Would you say they were either of those?
Well, I'll have to be honest with you. I don't talk about World War II stuff in public because we can't have an honest debate about it. And if I say the wrong thing, I could be arrested for it. But I would say they were a British nationalist party. They did have quite a few socialist policies, which I didn't agree with. Right. But for me, the immigration issue was much more important, and I could see our country was being destroyed by immigration, and that's why I joined in 2012. And then towards the end, nearer to like 2016 onwards, they did try and become more Christian. Nick Griffin tried to promote Christianity a bit more, which I think was the right thing to do. But also they had modernised. I mean, they were quite hardline in the early 80s, late 80s, and they basically modernised sufficiently. And that's probably the reason that I did actually join, because I felt that, it was, I joined because of all their electoral success, what I missed. And unfortunately, I mean, I think I said to you before, I'm not a fan of Tommy Robinson because he was part of the system that helped bring it down. And
can you give us because I'm sure people who are interested in political history will be fascinated to know what was the reason for the downfall of the BNP? Because at one point, people may not know, it was actually flying really quite high. It was getting millions of votes, wasn't it, at one point?
Yeah. They personally, I think that the BNP could have saved this country. The BNP were the original people who exposed the grooming gangs in the north of England, Oldham, Rotherham, Rochdale.
Was it Tommy Robinson? Because he was always talking about the grooming gangs from a very early start. Was he the one that, I remember the BNP were the first ones that I heard talking about the grooming gangs, but was it him being in the BNP that started the grooming gang conversation, or did it come from somewhere else?
Well, Tommy Robinson started talking about it quite a number of years later. But during that time, he was continually calling the BNP the R word and the fascist word, along with Nigel Farage and the state, and also a combination of Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks of the leaks of the BNP membership. Those four main things is the reason I could see what kind of brought it to the end, basically, and. Because Tommy Robinson was being very politically correct and calling, demonising us. I was in the BNP. I can remember it vividly that a lot of people was going to join the EDL instead of the BNP and UKIP instead of the BNP, which was Farage. And both Farage and Tommy Robinson were continually calling the BNP racist, which I'm very disappointed about them doing that. And I think it's just disgusting, to be honest, because as we all know now, Farage is, and I've got no sympathy for him because he's being attacked now for all these silly words. They're calling him in these silly words, but he does it to everyone else. And same as Tommy Robinson. So years ago, when I was in it, 2012 to 2021, it was still functioning. Unfortunately, when I joined it, it became smaller and smaller as the years went by because of the reasons I gave. Because many people went followed Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson basically chose Israel over this country. Basically, the BNP wanted to save this country. And, sorry, there you go.
That's brilliant, mate. That's better. That's perfect.
I've just got to change my camera quickly.
I know, it looks good there. To be honest with you, it looks great. You've got the picture in the background. Looks great.
Okay, we'll leave it like that. So, everyone says, but Tommy done so well with the grooming gangs and all this. Well, I don't think he did at all, because he helped stop the vehicle, which was in place, which could have actually done something about it. We had councillors elected all over the country. You had Marlene Guest in Rotherham, very, very high-profile person. She's one of my heroes, really. And Tommy helped bring it to an end. So I don't really like Tommy. I don't like Farage. I don't like Julian Assange, and I don't like the state either, obviously.
Well, I don't. I've listened to Tommy, and Tommy has been. I don't think Tommy, and this is not to me to be anyway disrespectful, but Carol Benjamin said that. Tommy Robinson as a political entity. I'm not talking about being able to get people on the streets for the correct causes. I think he's done the right things, but he's not. He's developing. I can see him developing politically. And for me, Tommy Robinson he's similar to me as a libertarian liberal. He's a centrist libertarian, or even slightly to the left. He's got some left wing ideas on economics and things like that as well, where he's been actually described as far right. And I think you and I both would disagree that he was actually far right in his ideology.
I just don't like him at all. So I just, I really don't like the fella because, he goes around calling nationalists racist and things like this. And, and he supports Israel. And I think that's a big problem for this country. So Zionism is the reason this country has been destroyed, because of Zionist influence and finance.
I've seen some things that have come up on Instagram. Some Jewish people, it's not like any far right as they call it or anybody else, and they've been saying some really quite questionable things. Not from, I certainly wouldn't describe myself as anti-Semitic, but
I don't acknowledge politically correct language. So
yeah. But my point is, I agree with you there because obviously I'm a libertarian, so I agree in complete freedom of speech. So, but some of the things that they're saying are almost genocidal, and this is coming from people who are Jewish who are actually openly talking about their scriptures and things like that. I was staggered by it because I had never heard it before. But the Jewish people are online saying some absolutely shocking things about trying to get rid of the Amalekites, which are white Europeans. They were talking initially about the Germans because of what they did, but they're then saying getting rid of all white Europeans.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this is another thing what I really don't like the Tommy sort of side of things, because they kind of criticise Islam because their Quran is 1,600 years old, but they're supporting people who are talking about killing all the Amalek, which is from a book which is 3,000 years old.
Uh-huh.
So you know, it's just laughable, really, the whole thing. And, you know, at the end of the day, if you're a Christian, you got to be a bit retarded to support the modern state of Israel, because they reject Jesus as our Lord and Savior. And why would you?
That's in the Talmud. That's in the Talmud.
Yeah. Why would you support a load of people who are trying to preserve a land on the Holy Land who reject Jesus? It's just completely nonsensical.
Interesting. So, can you just tell us a bit about the Housing Party, why it was set up, the National Housing Party, what the purpose of the National Housing Party is, and where you anticipate it going?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, I was in a BNP from 2012 to 2021, and we ended up in a power struggle with the leadership towards the end of that time. And at that time, we had started a exit the 1951 UN Refugee Convention campaign. We had a big banner, and we was going all around the country. Went to the Conservative Conference, went to Dover a couple of times, and some other various places. And John Lawrence had joined our sort of like our little campaign, and it was mainly a bit London BNP at that time. This is around 2020, 2021. And we really did think we was going to win this court case against the leadership, but we lost it. And, you know, I figured that John Lawrence probably would have joined with us if we would have won it, because I was going to take a leading role in the BNP if we would have regained control from these two crooks who took over the finances, etc., and basically were just pocketing all the money. So yeah, we lost the court case. We decided, like, well, what we're going to do, because you know, the BNP is no longer there, because we really thought that we could relaunch it because we've got Brexit. There's no need for UKIP anymore, and you know, but obviously it didn't work out like that. So at that time, there was two other parties what were kept trying to get registered with the Electoral Commission. And it was going on for like a really long time, and they was kept asking for donations, and we're like, oh, what's going on here? Why aren't they getting registered? So I thought to myself, oh, you know what? I want to see how difficult it is to get a party registered. And that's what I did. And initially, you need a leader and a treasurer to start a party. And so I said to John Lawrence, do you want to be leader? Let's see if we, you know, it was all started by accident, really. So we wanted to see how difficult it was. So he said, yeah, okay. And John Lawrence deserves a lot of credit, because he's never hesitated about being a leader or anything. And it's quite a big thing to do of a so-called far-right party, so to speak. Because and we're all banned from joining Reform, like myself, Paul Rimmer, John Lawrence. We can't join them because they're cancel culture, basically. So we went to the Electoral Commission. Initially, I wanted to call it National Party UK. NP UK, and they wouldn't have it. They said, no, it sounds too much the same as UKIP. And then we said, okay, we'll put it the other way around, like UK MP, something like that. And they said, no, it sounds like UKIP. And then I thought to myself, well, do you know what? When I was in the BNP and I used to go knocking on doors regularly, the first issue I'd be talking about is housing. You know, we want to stop immigration because of how we've got 1 million people waiting for council flats. I'd knocked on all different ethnic minorities' doors, and you know, BNP, and I'd managed to get them to agree with me. So I just thought, why don't we put a National Housing Party, put housing in the middle there? And that's what we did. And that was it. And it kind of snowballed from there. And the more we got into it, the more passionate we became. And we've stood in about, we've stood in South Gloucester. That was our best result in South Gloucestershire. We got 226 votes. And we didn't do any door knocking. We've done 2 leaflets, done a personal leaflet for the candidate, Callum Leet. And we done our warm-up leaflet, and then we done his personal leaflet. But that was the best result we've had so far. We've stood in Oldham, we've stood in the Wirral, in Merseyside, we've stood in London multiple times. We've got a candidate in Grimsby, we've got one in Bedford, we've got John standing again in Oldham, I've got myself and another 8 candidates standing this May in London. So that's how it's going at the moment. It's going really well. And then obviously we joined the Belmont Accord. That's how I met you. And Ken Thompson. I like Ken a lot. Christian as well. And it's all looking good.
I think the Alliance for Freedom and Democracy are actually a libertarian liberal party, and I think that's where I'll speak to Ken later on about this. I'm going to do a further interview with him hopefully this week coming, so I'm going to speak to him, and I think politically that fit for me is probably ideal. We're discussing where I come from, and I said I came from Glasgow. Nigel Farage was discussing the amount of people in Glasgow, which I was gobsmacked at. And I'm from Glasgow, because this was a place that was 95% white Scottish, all the time that I was growing up, at least 95% white Scottish. And now to find out that 30% of pupils in Glasgow's schools don't have English as a first language means that they've let in tens of thousands of people, not just the 4,000 that have skipped the queue and been given priority above the Scottish population, who paid their taxes and are now not getting housed because the so-called Scottish Nationalist Party, who are not a Scottish Nationalist Party, are a wokey Wefta party, a culturally Marxist shills for the globalists, a bit like the Labour Party or the Greens or your party. They're all pretty much of the same disposition. But I don't think that the prioritisation of people from somewhere else should have happened where they're putting Scottish people out on the streets who paid the taxes and should have been housed. This is a deliberate policy of ethnic replacement that these globalist shill parties are undertaking under the WEF and the Bilderberg groups, Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just the times we're living in, isn't it? I mean, the Scottish National Party, supposedly, with a name like that, you'd think they're nationalists, and they're completely the opposite. They want to stay in the EU. They want to flood the country with refugees, immigration. They want no borders. But well, they want one with England, but no one else.
Yeah.
And so it's just ridiculous. And, but yeah, I mean, when I joined the BNP in 2012, it was really bad then. Where I live in central London, I was just looking around and I thought, like, this is just not right. What's going on? And at that time, like you said, Scotland was probably a little bit better, than immigration terms. Yeah. And but now I've heard from multiple people it is an absolute disaster in Glasgow.
I was at a protest in Falkirk. There's been 5 women who have been allegedly, or one, a couple have actually been prosecuted now and have been put in jail. But there's been 5 sexual assaults, whether prosecuted or allegations so far, that have happened out one hotel from one group of asylum seekers, about 100 asylum seekers, and 5 sexual assaults. And there was a protest there, and there was the trade unions were protesting against the protesters who weren't wanting women and children sexually assaulted. I mean, it's really quite an incredible stance that they've got. They don't care about rape or murder. There's 10 people just been killed today by somebody driving in to a Christmas Christmas festival in 19 injured, and we've got barriers on the streets at festivals for diversity barriers on the streets to protect from ram raiding by cars. What's the benefit here? What are we getting in return?
Well, at the end of the day, it's a lot deeper than that. And the reason these people are attacking us is because of Zionism, and that's the reality. Like all these, it's like we had a big Muslim population in our country before 2001, and then we had the 9/11 attacks. And I'm a strong believer that Mossad of Israel were the chief suspects for organising that or letting it happen, or they had a big part to play in it. And since then, you know, the West invaded all those countries: Iraq, Afghanistan.
I think there were seven countries, and there was listed that they were going to invade. America was going to invade. The other thing I would just say on the back of the 9/11 thing, there was meant to be 5 Jewish people who were dancing when the towers were brought down, and those people were caught, and they were actually detained and then taken out of the country. And also the actual buildings were full of asbestos, and they were then insured by another Jewish gentleman who owned the business, the buildings. And then after he insured them for £1.5 billion, obviously this happened again, didn't it?
Yeah, I know about all that. So yeah, the dancing Israelis who were basically documenting the occasion, like they was ready for it to happen, and they were filming it and celebrating it. A woman, this is all proven. A woman phoned up the police. She thought they were Middle Easterners celebrating the towers going down, but the police turned up. They arrested them all. They turned out to be Israelis, and a few of them was actually Mossad agents as well. They also stopped a van on the Brooklyn Bridge, or one of the bridges, which was another Mossad agents, and that was full of explosives as well. In terms of the asbestos, yes, the Twin Towers were worthless because it was full of asbestos, and the money it would have cost to remove the asbestos was more than what the buildings was worth. Larry Silverstein bought them, so why would you buy them? He's bought them. He's insured them for terrorism. He got a massive payout, and he used to go to work every single day in the Twin Towers. On that day, he didn't go to work. So it's multiple. You know, the passport they said fell out of the plane. That's how they identified one of the hijackers.
And they also some businesses didn't send their staff in, did they not?
Yeah. And there was the IDIGO messaging service, which notified Israeli, not Jewish people, because there were some Jews from America who died in the attacks, but they were Israeli citizens. They were notified not to go into work that day, and their lives were saved, obviously. But the hijackers, there's no photos or video footage of them boarding the planes in any of the airports. Why is that? Oh, they said that all the CCTV was owned by an Israeli company, and they said, oh, it didn't work on that day. The hijackers apparently learnt to fly planes on propellered planes and flight simulators. They'd never flown jumbo jets before, apart from the actual day they went and hijacked them. I mean, come on, it's just unbelievable. And I could go on forever. Like so many things.
Yeah, and Candace Owens was saying that there was 12 Israeli phones on the day of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. She said that the other day there, which was quite interesting as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting more and more evident that this country in the Middle East is a big problem. And but going back to the 9/11 attack, so I was fooled by it. I was egging on the invasion of Afghanistan and then the invasion of Iraq. And then, I went and joined the BNP, and I was quite proud of NATO and things like that. But when I would join the BNP, they were saying, no, we need to be getting out of Iraq. We shouldn't be invading these countries. This is all wrong. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute. I've been told the BNP want to kill everyone. And now they're like peace activists. So that's when I woke up about NATO. And then a few years later, I looked into 9/11. So, they basically tricked us, the West, into invading Afghanistan and Iraq for Israel, basically, because all these dictators surrounding Israel, they wouldn't allow the Rothschild central bank into their countries.
That's right, yeah.
So
And Russia's one of them.
Yeah, so they can't control them. And the same as Iran and Venezuela, North Korea.
Right.
Interesting.
Interesting.
So basically, from all those invasions from our troops, which we was tricked into doing it for the benefit of Israel, all the refugees flooded out of there, came into our countries, and then because our governments are supporting Israel, they want to attack us. So, it's just unbelievable what has happened. And it's the ordinary people on the streets of the UK who are getting attacked and killed. Like in 7/7, Lee Rigby. I mean, it's endless. But these things are because of Zionism. They haven't just woken up one day.
Well, I can probably maybe say something different because when I was in jail, I was given a Quran by one of the Muslims in jail, and obviously there's not much to do when you're in jail in the Middle East, and so I was reading it, and what the Quran is basically a book of war on anybody who's not a Muslim. They say non-believers, which I used to think was atheists, but a non-believer in Islam, I think, is anybody who is a non-Muslim. And it repeatedly says to commit acts of violence throughout the texts in both the Quran and the Hadith. To Muhammad had a sex slave, was given by a Coptic ruler in what is Egypt, was given this slave called Mary or Maria the Copt, and he was obviously raping her, and he was he had her as a sex slave. He advocated sex slavery for conquered women, basically to say when the men could rape their captives, and obviously he married Aisha at 6 and had sex with her at 9. So that's only some of the questionable things I because I've read it, I know more. So we've invited in people who follow an ideology that says to murder and rape non-Muslims. So, and that's not just based on race. That's based on anybody who's not a non-Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, let me just make this clear. I don't agree with permanent settlement immigration. If I was in control of this country in 1945, there wouldn't be any. This country would be white and it'd be British, but English, Scottish, Welsh, and Irish. That's what it would be. And but what my point was, we had a big Muslim population before 2001, and we didn't have any terrorist attacks. We had the grooming gangs and all that, obviously, but we didn't have any terrorist attacks. So what you're saying about the Quran there, I'm sure that is all in there. Well, I know a lot of that is in there. So they use that, and they'll go to that in a time of war. And because not us, but our governments have invaded all their countries, they see themselves in a time of war, and that's why they're bloody attacking us. But
it's funny they don't attack the globalists that actually did the invasions. It's not obviously the rank and file individual on the street that's done the invasions. It's the globalist shells that we've got as a political entity.
Well, the globalists have got the protection, armed guards and stuff, haven't they? And at the end of the day, these jihadis who do these attacks, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that they're looking at videos all the time of little babies being killed by Western bombs and bullets, and that's why they do these things. I mean,
no, I don't think it is. We've been doing it for 1400 years. If you've got to remember that Islam only started in Medina, and it's been a military expansion out since there. There's been 240 million people killed under Islam. There's been the Turkish slave trade, the North African slave trade, there's ISIS slave trade, there's the transatlantic slave trade, East African slave trade, including the raping of female women. So all of these have happened for 1400 years. So this isn't new. This is a book of war on anybody else that's not available. And what it depends on how many there is of them. Once they get to a certain level, then they'll overrun the society.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say it again. I mean, it's quite interesting that before 2001, we didn't have any terrorist attacks, and we had a big Muslim population in the country. I mean, I didn't want them coming here in the first place. I say it openly that I didn't want none of it coming here in the first place. But the Zionism, as erupted it and basically made things 10 times worse. And I don't agree with immigration. I wouldn't agree with a load of Russians coming here settling permanently, or a load of Italians or Africans or Asians. I don't agree with it. I'll never say that multiculturalism is great. I will never say that we've benefited from permanent settlement of immigration. Plus, we're a Christian country. I see Islam as a false religion. Doesn't mean that I can't get on with them, because I've got quite a lot of Muslims in my area who I speak to and that. But I'm not going to start saying, we want to get them more mosques and things like that, because we don't. I don't want any more mosques being built in this country. I don't want any more synagogues being built in this country. I don't want any more Hindu temples being built in this country.
But this is it's obviously a deliberate policy by the globalists. People don't understand this about the Barcelona process, the Union in the Mediterranean, and the UN Compact in Marrakesh that was all signed by the Conservative Party, who are basically a globalist shell party. They're not any different. The globalists run the manifesto, and all the political parties are downstream from that. There was a woman called Zara Sultana. I don't know if you know her, from your party, and she did an interview with Owen Jones, and she did an interview on the BBC, and basically what she's advocating for is anarcho-communism or anarcho-syndicalism. People don't know, she's basically the extreme left libertarians, and or basically anarcho-communists, and with the empowerment of the workers. So they basically want to steal your stuff and redistribute it as they see fit. And she's not really called out on that, or the 100 million people that have died under communism worldwide. But she's given a platform on the BBC to spout our Islamo nonsense, or Islamo-communist nonsense, and basically say it's our right through the state to decide how the distribution of resources are actually affected. And this is obviously being promoted through your party, whether it be the Greens as well, or other parties. That's all part and parcel of the ability for even the far left, the extreme left, to be seen as the norm in British politics and through the British media.
Yeah, I mean, I've been observing them for the last few weeks, and I think it's a good thing that they're creating that party, because it's going to split the Labour Party, and we want to get rid of the Labour Party. You've also got the Greens, so my ideal election in my local election would be,
the Greens, your party, and Labour.
Yeah, like three-way split vote for the far left. And I wouldn't say that she's an Islamist, and
she may not be an Islamist. I agree. She may not be an Islamist. I agree with that. She seems a bit sort of. It's a bit sort of. I don't mean liberal politically. I mean liberal in our mental action.
She
has the extreme left. She has the extreme left.
I would describe her as a far left, anti-white, woke sort of person.
Yeah, cultural Marxist.
Yeah, same as Sadiq Khan. And people say Sadiq Khan's an Islamist, and he's not. He celebrates the Pride Parade, etc. in London. The people who get him elected are the white lefty, anti-white lefties. That's the people who vote for him. And I know a lot of Muslims in my area, and they absolutely hate Sadiq Khan. They can't stand him. I've never met a Muslim who's told me they voted for him. Wow. And it's really strange, because everyone's convinced that he's some sort of Islamist. He's not. He's anti-white. He hates white people. There's no doubt about that. But he is not, pushing for because I should imagine that the Muslims really dislike him, because he takes part in the Pride. He promotes the Pride thing in London and all that. And any conservative Muslim is not going to like that. So I mean, that Sultana and Corbyn, they're a trans rights party. They're open border anti-white, open border trans rights party is probably how you describe it.
Although I would suggest that they're probably not pro-globalist as well. I would suggest they're maybe against the WEF, whereas Keir Starmer's probably, we know Keir Starmer's on the record for saying he's pro-Davos, and I don't think Jeremy Corbyn or Sultana are probably WEF supporters. I think they're more socialist than that.
Yeah,
communist team.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're open border communists, whereas Blair is open borders capitalist sort of thing.
Well, I would say they're not capitalists. I would say they were corporatists. I think they actually
Corporatists,
say, I don't. There's corporatism, there's capitalism, corporatism, the sort of in between sort of area that China's now gone into, which is in between corporatism and actual fascism. The China economic model is in between that corporatism and fascism, but they're obviously designing policy to stop competition and destroy small businesses. They're now trying to destroy the farmers, which is a communist policies as well.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's we've got to wait and see whether Sultana and Corbyn get this thing off the ground. The thing what really it doesn't annoy me, but it just proves the point that George Galloway he's not really on our side at all, because he's always saying, Corbyn's the best and all this, and he wants to unite with Corbyn all the time. And I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute. 1 minute you're saying you want to control the borders and that, and you're against trans ideology because, it's impossible to transition from a man to a woman and vice versa. And the next minute you're supporting it. It's like, make your mind up. And so, yeah, I mean, it's we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I hope they do succeed in the terms of getting stronger, so they really destroy the Labour Party, and then there'll be the Greens, your party, Labour Party. And you've got the Lib Dems as well. They're really strong in the southwest of England.
And coming out as cultural WEF cultural Marxist is a very strange liberal that is basically on the cultural Marxist train and is also just shilling for the globalists as well. Very little differentiation on politics from the extreme left cultural Marxist, the neo-communist cultural Marxist, right the way through even to the Conservative Party. All shills for the globalists. All cultural Marxists. It's quite incredible that
I would even add reform to that as well, to be honest, because they've been infected, and they're sacking people left, right, and centre for saying words on the internet. And they've openly said that they're going to send men to women's prisons. They're taking big donations from the WEF members. They want to stay part of NATO. They support Ukraine. They support Israel. I mean, come on, what is it? That's a globalist party.
Yeah. Well, certainly. I think it's going to be better just now, and I think in the short term, certainly for the next British election, they're going to be the best option to try and break out the stranglehold. I don't understand what you're saying, but it could be a definite shift just now away from the parties that are already there. But yeah, you have to differentiate yourself in policy, and I don't think a wokey wefter style of policy from reform is going to be a change. But I touch wood, I'm hoping that they're certainly saying more robust things just now. But I saw that Labour was down to 14, just going back to your previous point, down to 14% and could be in 4 seats, which probably I would suggest maybe it could be 10 or something like that, because you usually get it wrong. But even at 10, that's a total decimation from 400 down to 10 if they don't stop corrupting the democratic process like they're doing down south.
Yeah, I mean, this is the latest thing. They keep cancelling elections and stuff. And, I mean, they're going to get really annihilated next May in London. They're going to lose a lot of seats. And hopefully I'll win a seat where I am. And hopefully they get smashed in Scotland as well. And I hope the SNP gets smashed as well, and I hope the ADF win a couple of seats up there. Yeah. And, that'd be great.
Well, Reformers, I don't know if you know this, but Reformers sitting in second place above Labour, in Scotland. Did you know that?
I think I've heard similar things like that. But how many seats does that mean that they would win?
I would think off the top of my head, I haven't seen the figures recently for that sort of return. I've not seen the exact percentage that they're on just now, but I'm thinking between 15 to 20.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that would be just about between an 8th and a 6th, I would think.
And has the Conservative Party ever had anything like that in terms of power in Scotland?
Yeah, you've before in the 1950s, the Conservative Party were the largest party in Scotland.
Right, that's
They
interesting.
they were larger than Labour.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Although Labour have held the balance of power for a number of years, they were actually the people here were small C Conservative, and they had actually voted more for the Conservative. But the Conservative Party, like it's happening in England, ran out of favour up here first, and I think it's now travelling down south. Obviously, they're probably looking about 50 to 70 odd seats in the next election, the next general election as well. The makeup of the next British Parliament is going to be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and what's the objectives now for the National Housing Party? What are you wanting to say? Have you got guys up in Scotland? What's your roadmap for future success?
Well, obviously, I'm standing in an election in Camden, where I'm from, and like I said before, the party kind of started by accident, and I wasn't planning on standing in election where I'm from, because I live in the area where Keir Starmer is actually our MP, and it is a Labour stronghold. I mean, it's probably one of the safest seats in the country for Labour for local elections as well. And just recently, the Labour Party announced that they're going to put the leader of Camden Council in my ward for my election, because they think it's a God-given they're going to win it. So it's going to be a really interesting seat. So, yeah, initially I wasn't going to stand because of all this, yeah. But because we started the party, I thought to myself, I can't start a party and go around asking people to stand and say to them, there's nothing to worry about. Don't worry about it. You know, just stand, when I haven't done it myself. So I thought, right, I'm going to do it myself. And I might learn a few bits here and there so I can help other people. I knew I wasn't going to win, because it was only we only got registered about 2 months before the election, and the local elections in London are every 4 years. There's 8,000 voters in my ward, so I thought, right, I'm going to put a 2-month campaign in. I knew how to campaign, so I just went for it for 2 months. And on my sheets, I got about 110 yeses, and the result I got was incredible. I got 214 votes, and I only knocked on doors for 2 months. And I thought, after that, well, if I'd done that in 2 months, like, what would I get if I was knocking on doors for 4 years? You know, and because there's 5,000 voters who don't vote in like consistently in the last 20 years in my local election. So I thought, if I've got 4 years to get to those other 5,000 voters, maybe get them to vote for me. And I was hoping that Keir Starmer would be Prime Minister and Sadiq Khan would be Mayor of London at my next election, because I knew that Labour would just be going downhill, like, you know, and it would just get worse and worse for them. And that's exactly what it looks like is going to happen. But this Green Party thing's a thing I didn't anticipate, and that's good.
And your party.
And your party as well. So yeah, it's you know, so I didn't plan on doing it, but then I was sort of like helping other candidates around the country. So a year after my election in 2022, a year after, because I was helping other people and stuff, I thought, why don't I just do this for myself? Because I thought about it, and I thought, I have got a chance to win, and if I really put my mind to it, and that's what I've done. And I'm like nearly 2.5 years. So a year after my election in 22, in 2023, I went for it, and I thought, right, I'm going to do a thank you leaflet. Done a leaflet to thank everyone who voted for me. Just reminded them of the policies that I was standing on. And I've done 5 different leaflets in my ward, and I've just got so many people who want to vote for me. You know,
what are the policies you're standing on?
So I always say to the people, there's 4 policies basically. Camden People First for housing, right? Because, you know, as everyone knows, refugees get prioritised, yeah. And there's people who lived in the area all their lives, all their ancestors are from the area. They're not. Some people are not even allowed to go on a waiting list, and it's an absolute scandal. So Camden People First for Housing is the first one. I usually get a lot of votes on that one. But also they've been closing a lot of roads in London, particularly in Camden. They're called LTNs, lower traffic neighbourhood schemes. So you just think do you drive, Dave?
No.
Oh, right. So, you probably know a little shortcut that you'd probably drive through all your life. You just know it's been there for 30 years. And then the Labour Party just decided to close them all. Like, they're just like, everyone's got to go the long way round down the high street. So they say they're against pollution. It's making more pollution because everyone's got to drive the long way round. Anyway, these LTNs, I'm so angry about them. This is what's driving my campaign, really, because every time I go out, I see them and I just think, ah. So that's the second one. Then the third one's parking. They're taking loads of parking away. 172 new parking spaces. I've identified all the places we can do it. And then fourthly, as we spoke at the Belmont meeting, the drug problem in Covent Garden and Holborn is particularly bad. And,
can I just say, I found that very interesting. You were quite informative about what you were saying as well. Can I just reiterate this as we're actually broadcasting? I told you that my friend's son died, and he was part of my life, all his adult life as well. And I suggested to you, rather than incarcerating people for compulsive behavioural patterns or addictions, they're called, but I call it compulsive behavioural patterns. There should be interventions where people could be, I don't want to say locked up, but I do actually mean locked up for up to 3 months, where they actually come off everything, and they're obviously fed, but they're actually locked in the room, fed, and they're given a dry out period, and their family can actually do a staged intervention where they say you need to go to. It doesn't actually matter what the compulsion is, whether it's drugs, sex, booze, it could be anything, and you go and spend 3 months drying out, clearing your head, and you're fed. You're actually then going into group therapy, and then you're maybe helped to be dentistry, because a lot of people have got dentistry features, maybe given a suit or something, and you're actually then allowed out, maybe do some training as well, so that it's actually done to get the person out the mindset where they're compulsive and doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And for the people who do actually want to stop, I think that there definitely should be resources there for them, treatment centres. But like, as I said to you before, there's a lot of people who don't want to stop, and they just that's what. But they
that's
why
do. I think you need an intervention. So you're actually not you sort of so your friends and family say we're going to intervene here, and you're taking to, and you're stopping at this point because you're behaving erratic. Because usually what happens is if you're taking drugs, you behave erratically, and the drugs make you, as I'm sure you probably understand, the people aren't thinking straight, so they're always looking for the next fix. So what you need to do is take them out of the environment and get them thinking straight again. So and maybe it takes about 3 months to get them off the dependency and back actually in the land of the living.
Well, are you actually saying, so say if somebody had an alcohol problem, are you saying that the same similar thing to that intervention, as it, like forcibly take them into treatment?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that one, because there's no point putting someone in treatment if they don't want to stop. I've been through it myself. I bet a lot of people who they just don't want to stop, and that's what. So like, it's a complex thing, the drug problem, because long term, I think our policy says it needs to be decriminalised, because there's just no point in it being illegal. It shouldn't be. They shouldn't be criminalised for doing it. I know we've said that on a short-term basis in Covent Garden, because people are literally taking crack and heroin outside people's front doors. It's just chaos down there. And the reason it's chaos down there is because there's drug dealers on the streets down there. If it was decriminalised, there wouldn't be the drug dealers on the streets. And all the money you'd save through the court system, the police, customs and excise, prison service, you're talking billions of pounds, and you could build hundreds of treatment centres, and for the people who did want to stop, because there's nothing worse if you're in a treatment centre and there's a load of people in there who don't even want to stop. They'll be getting
this is my point to you. This is a good point you said. So they don't want to stop. So if you actually do the intervention and get them to stop, then they start to think clearer after 3 months. Their dependency wanes. It's obviously a problem initially, but it wanes off, and then they start to they get to think clearer. They might have underlying psychological conditions or other conditions that they're actually doing this for. Sometimes they've lost a child, and they then get into the dependency. So that way they don't want to stop, but your intervention then puts them in a place where they're confined to actually stopping. They come out after 3 months and their dependency is gone, and you put them into group therapy and they're able to talk, or if they require psychological assessments or conditions, if they've got underlying psychological conditions, learning difficulties. These are all things that can be done at that point through treatment.
Yeah, just to let your viewers know that we don't advocate for selling it in shops and things like that. It should be controlled by government doctors, prescription only. And so the problem in Covent Garden at the moment is so bad that I've described what's going on down there. So my solution to the problem is an automatic 4-week prison sentence for anyone taking heroin or crack openly on the street. So they would find somewhere off the streets to do it, because there's needles and stuff outside the schools and that down there. It's so bad and it's been going on for 30 years, right? So if they did implement what I'm suggesting, there would be professionals ready to deal with these people as soon as they get sent to prison, because they'll do the cold turkey. 2 weeks, they're going to be clean, and there'll be professionals there to really help them and say, look, do you want to stop?
Well, do you not think my idea rather than prison's a better idea, where they actually get sent to almost like a medical health centre rather than prison? I don't think sending people who have got drug problems to prison, who have got psychological conditions, is the right answer. I would say that send them to a rehab centre that's designed to keep them in the place. It's better in a rehab centre than in a prison.
I think your idea is good for people who want to stop, but most of the people doing this, they've been in that prison for many years. They don't want to stop, and you know, in Camden they've done alcohol-free zones. There's certain places you cannot drink cans of beer openly on the street. Yeah, if they can enforce that, why can't they enforce something for crack and heroin, which is illegal? It's an illegal substance. But like I say, long term, we need to, in our policy, we say try this out for 4 years, what we're suggesting, decriminalisation. If it doesn't work, we go back to what we got now, which is just a disaster. In America, they tried to give out really strong prison sentence, the tough approach. They've ended up with like over 1 million people in their prison system. You know, unfortunately, drugs are here to stay. They're not going to go anywhere. You know, even in China, they got a blinking bad drug problem, and they execute people there for drug dealing and stuff. So,
well, I mean, I think we've got the highest drug deaths in Europe just now. So obviously, whatever the SNP are doing, we've got from the indigenous population in Scotland, we've got a higher death rate than we do have a birth rate. The women up here are not reproducing in numbers, and I don't just blame them. There's other mitigating factors, but ultimately, it's a woman that reproduces, and we're not having enough children. A minimum of 3 children would be the birth replacement. And obviously, I think the LGBT community have got a role to play in this, even though it's obviously more difficult if you're got penisophobia or vaginophobia in the gay community. But I think they've got a role to play in the population stabilisation and maybe increase themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the drug problem and the birth rate, both a result, in my opinion, of the breakdown of Christianity in this country. And this is why we decided to, make Christianity part of our political party. You don't have to be a Christian to join our party. At the end of the day, the reason the birth rate's collapsing is because no one's getting married. Everyone's messing around, watching porn, having sex all over the place, abortion on demand. This is all downstream from removing Christianity. Christianity is a life manual for humanity to move in a positive direction, and they've just destroyed it. Who's destroyed it? The Zionists, in my opinion.
Oh, well, I would say the globalist, but I guess it's all relative. But yeah, let me just ask you. We've just spoken over an hour just now, so let me just ask you a question about finally for the direction of the Belmont Accord. Do you foresee potentially the merging of these parties? Do you foresee other parties, Britain First, Advance, UKIP, who else would be maybe even UK Libertarian Party, Scottish Libertarian Party, there's a Family Party, Heritage Party, there's a whole host of parties that could come on through the Belmont Accord, join to increase the momentum of it. And do you see it moves towards a single party, or at least a hybrid party there, whether keeping the same parties, but a hybrid party for one manifesto and one election direction?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that we joined is, hopefully in the near future we can come to some sort of like merger agreement with other parties. But, the reason there is so many small parties is because we have all got quite different objectives and different policies. I mean, there's a few red lines for me that I could, like you mentioned, Britain First, Advance and UKIP. I wouldn't want to be doing anything with them because all three of them are Zionist parties. And Zionism, in my opinion, is what has destroyed this country. This is the reason we're in this mess. And some people can't even see that, and they're going to support Zionism, modern state of Israel. It's just incredible. So, but the main red line for me is stopping permanent settlement immigration. That's the and if anyone can agree to that, I would probably consider working with them. But then there's other things. I want it to be Christian. I believe in the union of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The Zionism question, NATO, we need to leave NATO.
What's your thoughts on the Bank of England? What's your direction, or what's your sort of ideal policies? Because it's independent just now. What's your ideal policy for the Bank of England?
Well, I think the banking system should be controlled by the people. It should be nationalised, and we should be getting rid of usury, because usury, we're trillions in debt. Every Western nation's trillions in debt to these Rothschild bankers. And at the end of the day, has it made our society better? No, it's not. We're on a collision course with like hell, basically. So yeah, I mean, and people have said this for many years. The usury, but basically, the right to print money out of thin air and put it on a computer screen, then lend it to you and put interest on it. If we do that, we get arrested. So we're living in a criminal system, ruled by criminals, basically.
And would you deregulate the banking system to increase competition?
Well, I would. In our policy, it actually says that we would do interest-free bank loans. We'd set up a national bank for mortgages and stuff. There would be a slight charge, just to run the banks and stuff, but it'd be a non-profit bank run by the government to help people get housing and businesses and stuff.
Interesting, very interesting. Is there anything you want to say or ask me, or was there anything you want to say before we wrap up? Is there any questions or anything you want to ask me?
Well, I've got a few things I could just quickly tell the audience what our party's about. We've got about 35, 40 policies on our website. That's nationalhousingparty.uk. And I'll just run off like maybe we've got like 17 really important ones. Like I said, one of them already, stop permanent settlement immigration. That needs to be. There's three main things what we really need to do to save this country and the people, because like you said, the population is plummeting, and we need to stop permanent settlement immigration. We need to ban abortion, and we need to legalise white British group identity, or white English, or white Scottish. Have the right to be officially recognised, like have your own party or own business or own charity. And also for other ethnic minorities as well. That's in our policy. Like everyone should have the right to do that. That's what a free society should be. No more foreign religious buildings to be built. No more mosques. No more synagogues. No more Hindu temples. No more Sikh temples. Reject Zionism and ban the Friends of Israel groups in all of our political parties. No foreign interest groups in political parties. Bring back Christianity into our school system. We've got a policy to gradually bring it back in. A third of schools should be within a borough. Then if that's successful, then you make 2/3. Maybe just leave a third not for atheists and other religions or whatever, because as a party, we're not going to be campaigning to mass deportation of settled migrants. I didn't want them coming in the first place, but I think it's a bit of it's just silly to try and campaign to remove like 25 million people. It's just ridiculous. But obviously illegals, criminals and things, foreign criminals, they should obviously, if you could deport them, obviously they need to be gone. Leave all the globalist things like NATO, IMF, the UN, reject WEF, reject WHO, scrap the Equalities Act. So in order to legalise white British group identity again, you'd have to scrap the Equalities Act. And the Equalities Act paved the way for all these quotas to ban white people from applying for jobs and things like that in the RAF, in the police, in the BBC. It's just incredible that we're even living in this nightmare. So the Equalities Act, it started off as the Race Relations Act, but the people who campaigned to get that put in, quite a few of those people were Jewish people. So want to reject the climate hoax, Big Pharma and the LTNs and 20 miles per hour, which is spreading across the United Kingdom. I don't think it's in Scotland yet, but it's in the whole of Wales. It's in the whole of London, 20 miles an hour. It's just unbelievable that they've done that. Remove sex education from schools. Parents should be teaching their children about these things. If there's any sex education in schools, it should be about getting married and not having sex before you get married to have children, basically. Nationalise the utilities, the gas and all that, electricity, the national rail network. Introduce a form of national service, so like 2 years solid national service to make people like really love the country, patriot, build up our military. If we leave NATO, people say, oh, we can't leave NATO because we'll have a weak military and all this crap. We bloody rule a quarter of the world. As if we can't build up a military to defend our island or 2 islands, however you want to see it. Monetary policies, just went through them. Need to stop interest loans and stuff. Ban dual nationality, and so just to reiterate, we're not advocating for an all-white British policy for our party. I mean, it would be illegal now anyway, but we are just fighting for the right for a party to do that if they wanted to.
Yeah, it seems like collectivism is working for everybody else, other than the indigenous population. They seem okay with collectivism when it suits them, and then call anybody, if it's white identity and things, it's white supremacy or it's racist, which is absolutely staggering set of beliefs. Either you don't have it at all, or you have it for everybody. But you can't just say, oh, everybody can get it bar you.
Yeah, and also, European people are a minority in the world now, a small minority. So things are getting quite critical. I mean, I haven't had any children, and I know so many people my age who haven't had any. Have you got any children, Dave?
No.
Right. No. And it's tragic, really, because we were just all brainwashed into hedonism. We was just, we was allowed to just go off and like run around having fun everywhere. I've been in love with 5 different women throughout my life, and I didn't have kids with any of them. And I'm just thinking, everyone I broke up with, it took me like years to get over. And I'm just thinking, what was the point in all that? And now, like my genes, well, my 2 sisters have had 1 child each, but even that's not really enough, is it?
No, yeah, it's 2 point something, 2.1 or something like that, but it's probably, you can't have a 2.1 of a kid, so it's really 3 children at minimum you have to have before you've got, a woman has to have each before the replacement birth rate. And don't forget, there's some women who can't have kids, some guys who can't have kids, some women are lesbian and gay men. UN. So there's a proportion of them that either can't have kids or don't find it difficult to have kids as well. But a woman who's a lesbian could be surrogated. She could surrogate. She could give her eggs. So there's a number of things that even a lesbian woman could actually do to actually try and reproduce and increase the birth rate. But I would say that that's critical. The thing that the globalists are doing is saying, oh, we've got a low birth rate. Rather than increasing the birth rate, they've just said we're into demographic replacement, which is illegal under the international law from the UN. The Declaration of Genocide makes what they're doing actually illegal.
Yeah. So, like I said, our party, black people, Asian people can join our party. You don't have to be a Christian to join. If you agree with our policies, we're happy for you to join and help us. But as I said, I personally don't think a party what is just going to be for white British people in this day and age is going to progress politically. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing morally wrong with it. And if it did start to progress and got rid, maybe I might even join it myself. I don't know. But at this stage, I think, the best way forward is to, if people want to help you, you should accept the help. That's the way I see it.
We didn't really get to the conclusion of what I was saying there. Do you think the Belmont Accord might be a single manifesto and a single unified party at some point?
Well, I've had a good hard think about it, and the problem is with merging with other parties, like what name are you going to have? Yeah, and I did actually think, well, maybe if we got a number of parties who agreed to maybe merge, maybe we'll have to be called the Belmont Accord Party.
Yeah.
Because but the thing is we've got to look at who does well in the elections in May. If we win 3 seats in Camden, I'm going to be saying, look, we've just proved that our vehicle is the best vehicle. If the ADF win a few seats in Scotland, maybe, and we don't win any, maybe I might just have to eat my humble pie and say, well, I'm going to come and join the ADF. Something like that. But like I say, there's certain policies that need to be in place. Not many, but there is a few that. And everybody's got these, and they're all different, aren't they? That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, as long as they're not contradictory with each other, then you can probably actually get them to merge. If they're just a continuum or a list of different policies, it will certainly flesh out a manifesto and give the public something different to vote for, rather than what is the underlying globalist manifesto, which is what they've been getting for the last probably. I mean, this is a way back to the 70s. I don't think people understand that the WEF has been going since the 70s. The King has been involved with the WEF since then, and various prime ministers have been WEF adjacent, like Ted Heath, for example.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Is this the first time you heard about the National Housing Party when you was asked to come down to the Belmont Accord?
No, I'd heard about you online, and I'd seen a wee bits and bobs. I hadn't followed it in depth, but I like to speak to smaller parties, and I usually talk to the leaders. So you're the treasurer, aren't you, Pat?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. So I usually talk to all the leaders of the parties. It doesn't matter if it's left, right, or centre, authority, and libertarian. They're all welcome on this. As I said, my own political opinions is I'm a libertarian liberal, and this is a libertarian channel, which means that we believe in freedom of speech for everybody. So it doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. So I had heard about you before. Obviously, I'm quite astute at politics, which it's a bit of a strange thing to have a passion in, but it's certainly something that I'm really quite educated on. So, to answer your question, I had heard of you before. I kind of understood it as well because of the unfairness that the globalists are doing and the displacement or the deliberate displacement of people. And then if anybody complains about it, they call them this word racist. Do you know where the word racist comes from, Paul? Pat, sorry.
Yeah, it's Leon Trotsky.
So a mass murderer came up with the word racist, and it really is just to beat down individuals who I'm actually reading about them killing the Cossacks as well just now.
Right, yeah, and you got the Holodomor as well. Like, not many people know about that, and that was that was Stalin, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Trotsky was obviously part of Stalin's government.
Yeah. So you saw the National Housing Party on the internet. What did you think? What did you think we was about? What was your first initial reaction?
Well, I kind of knew bits and bobs of it. I hadn't done a deep dive, but I obviously, because I follow politics, I follow all politics, left, right, centre. As I said, I was listening to Owen Jones, who's obviously left wing in the BBC, so I know all the different the variances of political entities. I thought it was interesting because of what I said earlier on, that the way that the globalists are doing things to push out the indigenous population and to basically do population replacement, which is illegal under international law, and they were deliberately doing it. So I could understand where the National Housing Party was coming from, and I don't understand how they're getting away with people are paid taxation for years and putting the indigenous population out in the streets while replacing with people who haven't paid any taxes and giving them priority. It's just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and like our party, there's two sides you could look at it. You know, the council house side, the social housing side of things. You know, we want to stop immigration and put well, we say UK citizens first because you know that means Indigenous British people and UK
people
citizens.
have immigrated here.
Yeah. So there's lots of them waiting as well. With being, you know, it's such a mess. And then that's on the social housing side of it. And then you've got on the private sector, we've got a policy to ban foreign ownership of property and land in this country, including our football clubs. And you know, most people they can't get on they can't get on the social housing waiting list, and they can't get on the property ladder because the deposits for a house now you're looking at least £50,000, and no one's got that. So no matter what area we campaign in, if you know. We can do a good campaign, if you get what I mean. Like, people are going to be interested in our party. Everyone needs housing. So, but like on social media, John Lawrence, he's the leader, and he's pretty big on Facebook and that. I'm pretty big on X. I was much bigger than what I am now because they changed the algorithms, or I don't know if I'm being shadow banned or what. But
yeah, I'm being shadow banned as well.
There's a lot of people who have been complaining about the algorithms on X. I mean, I used to get a lot of new members joining. I mean, I had tweets, and I had one tweet had 2.7 million views on it once. Wow. And you know, it's just gone now. Like, I don't, you know, it's very disappointing. But what can you do? I mean, that shows how much power you can have within communications and stuff. And you know, we know that Israel bought TikTok. You know, they own YouTube. Elon Musk's in their pocket as well. You know, it's like I personally think that because I speak out against Israel, they've just basically said, right, this account's not going to be promoted.
Well, I don't per se speak out against Israel. I don't really cover it because I usually try and stick to domestic issues rather than international. Sometimes I talk international, but it's usually maybe politics in the United States. But I don't usually talk about it, so I don't really have that problem. I've said quite.
So why do you think you're being shadow banned?
Because I have, even though I've got a very small channel, it's very powerful, and we nearly take down first ministers. And when you actually get to the stage where I can actually speak out against, I don't think you know this because you probably not watched me before, but I was nearly instrumental in taking down Nicola Sturgeon, even from a very small channel. If you look at my highest ranked video, I nearly took her down because of the Hamilton, what later turned into the Hamilton report, which was heavily redacted, and I nearly took her down outside the Scottish Parliament when I was broadcasting out there. I've talked to Anna Sarwar, so he's not going to become First Minister. I had 1 million views on a minute clip that's been put out by Tommy Robinson. He got 350,000 views on it. A guy called Peter Lloyd, who did a great interview about feminism. He did very funny on that wee clip. David Atherton put out.
You think you're a marked man then on social media?
Yeah, I am. They're restricting the growth, and but even with the small channel, I've already been banned on YouTube. Sorry, not YouTube, Facebook and LinkedIn. So they've already known. So they obviously know that I am exceptional at taking out, by just using my words, politicians. And they know that it just takes a couple of sentences for me to actually I can go after the politician. And I always took on Peter Adam Smith from STV, and he's now singing the same tune as I was saying to Sarwar way back then. He's now asking about why the grooming gang's not been put forward to John Swinney.
Right. Well,
and I said it, and now he's having to say it. While at the same time, he working for ITV was calling me a racist, which I don't believe in race.
Well done, mate. You're doing well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is there anything else you want to ask me, Pat?
No, that's great. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm glad I've met you. I like your passion and that. And hopefully we can all work more closely in the future. And,
well, I mean, obviously, we're I'm an independent. We're an independent and open media source. So for anybody, so if there was left-wing people who want to come on, the mainstream parties, Anna Sarwar can come on. Anybody can come on and actually have a debate and speak to me. We're an open channel for politics. We like to cover all politics and political history. I think meeting you guys down there was quite a historic day, and I think that it was good from me being a political anorak to actually looking at it. But you never know, standing at the Scottish election, so you can watch this space and see who I stand for, and how well I do if I'd stand as an MSP at the Scottish Parliament. I'm sure they will be bricking it if I get in. they'll be getting the police to try and not let me into the building.
Well, I'll be rooting for you, mate. I'll be praying for you as well.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. And it was good to chat. I'll just say, my baby gorillas, hope you enjoyed that. That was excellent. And Pat, just stay on. I'm just going to cancel the live stream and just stay there and we'll have a chat after we finish.
No worries. God bless.